It really started affecting me physically. The stress of that I was lying to parents and to everyone, and it was against everything I believe in. I had to do a lot of prayer.
That was Melissa Batty Smoose, a former San Jose State University volleyball coach who is now suing the school, saying she was fired for raising concerns about a transgender athlete on the team. That athlete, Blair Fleming, was at the center of a scandal last year that saw some teams forfeit games against San Jose State. Batty Smoose says she was fired after filing a Title IX complaint in which she alleged the university had showed favoritism toward Fleming and withheld knowledge about the player's birth gender. Watch this.
Who would ever guess this, that I would have to, in my 30 years career, have to, take on something like this. I was like, something's wrong with this picture. Oh, by the way, Blair is, trans.
A male.
A male. Both Todd Kress and the administration, Laura Alexandra, was not allowed to talk about that, allow parents to know or anyone to know. The same thing that they were doing to the athletes, they were doing to me, threatening me to fire me.
The lawsuit was filed against the California State University Board of Trustees, which oversees San Jose State. It reads in part this way. The school's actions in suspending and terminating Batty Smoose were not based on her job performance, but were in direct retaliation for her opposition to sex discrimination and her advocacy for the fairness and equal access to programs, services, and activities for female athletes, end of quote. We have now reached out to San Jose State for any comment. We have yet to hear back. So it was interesting while that was playing out, you made the comment, but this is where most of the country is now on her side. Things are different than they were a few months ago as well because of what the president has done by executive order.
Yes, newsflash, everybody. February 5th, the Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports executive order was signed by President Trump. And something happened over the summer very quietly. The U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee changed the eligibility rules. They are now, for the Olympics coming up, men cannot be on, biological men cannot play in sports against female athletes. Ooh. Remember the controversy we talked about on this program with the boxers? That they quietly changed that small little paragraph in their decision making. Things are changing, things are shifting, and I hope somebody out there offers her a new position. She seems wonderful.
So if the landscape changes, what does that do to her lawsuit against San Jose State? Can she win?
I think absolutely. I mean, the whole thing is arising out of this idea of what is Title IX for? What is it supposed to be protecting against? It was designed to protect women. It was designed to make sure that women weren't discriminated against, particularly in sports, but it's not entirely directed at sports. But I think if the administration is taking a change in the way that it views that, it will absolutely affect that lawsuit. I'm a father of 3 little girls, 5, 3, and 1.
So you're outnumbered.
I am outnumbered. I live outnumbered. I'm blessed. I love them. They're little. They haven't entered sports yet. But I think about these things, and it's not even so much thinking about them from, oh, what'll Title IX mean? What will it stand for? But just from a safety perspective, I'm thinking, would I want them playing sports? Some of these aren't contact, but they still involve a certain amount of physicality that could affect their safety. And that's something I think needs to be worked out in addition to the legal issues.
I love where you just took us. Kennedy, what about the athletes? Like, you're playing against San Jose State and you forfeit because of some of these very salient issues of injury potential, so on and so forth, or maybe it's based on principle. They don't get that time back. They don't get their young sports careers back to redo those games.
Yeah, especially when they're also subject to the same kind of retaliation that this coach has been.
Right.
And there are some very real ramifications here. There are people who, and the argument has turned the tide against them, but there are people who are still arguing that trans athletes should be able to play in women's leagues. And it's not fair unless you're going to completely scrap Title IX and allow women to use performance-enhancing drugs, including testosterone, so they can, try and do whatever they can to level the biological playing field. Then someone has to grow a spine as the IOC eventually did in order to protect women. That is not a bad thing. And it's actually trying to capitulate has made things so much more divisive and unsafe. And, you know, it's like, I'm not a lawyer yet. The day is young. But I think she does have a case here. And I think anyone who has lost their careers, lost scholarships, lost places on the podium, they do as well. And these schools realize that this administration is being far more aggressive than any other past administration. And that's why you're seeing places like Harvard and Columbia and eventually UCLA all fall in line, because they know those sweet, sweet federal dollars will be withheld if they continue to FAFO.
You know, I was just thinking, though, no matter what we as women would do, being a linebacker in the NFL, there are not enough hormones to get to be 350 pounds at 6'7". Like that, I mean, it's always going to be, we're different.
Yeah, so digging into the legal stuff here for a second, I think it's important. I want listeners to understand that non-renewing a contract can still be retaliation. I think she's a strong case. I think she's going to win. And I think what's really interesting is that her original complaint to begin with, guys, sort of represented a lot more than just some type of HR action or on behalf of just one coach, because the chilling effect was really huge here. And as we talk about the culture, you know, and sort of the overgeneralized statement about, you know, that we're losing scholarships, yes, but there was a massive culture where coaches were instructed and other athletes were instructed. Don't talk to this person. Don't talk to their parents. Don't mention it at all. Don't even bring it up. And so part of this is woven into the fabric of her now 2 lawsuits, which state that because of that, you're totally infringing on my ability to advocate for these actual girls, for themselves. And there was a climate of fear. And I think the retroactive nature of these decisions is so unfortunate, because there's no way that they can restore those lost opportunities. But I think that the main thing, too, was that for a lot of years now, particularly under the Biden administration's reign, a lot of people lived, as she just was describing there, physical sickness under threat of termination or being kicked off the team or discipline or retaliation socially, by the way, online as well, for these young girls that were shunned in many different ways, kicked off the team, et cetera, including suspensions from school for daring to speak up for themselves. So I hope this is a seminal case and reminder that the injunctive relief she is requesting sort of tests the limits of Title IX. I know this president cares deeply about it and has laid down the law in that way, but hopefully the Ninth Circuit might catch up to 2025. Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.